Be honest, when was the last time you greased your steering head bearings? If you're like most riders, the answer is never. Don't be like most riders. Give your steering head bearings some love. I'm going to show you how in this video from the MC Garage. Greasing your steering head bearings is kind of a crappy job, and it's really time consuming, but it's an important job because the health and condition of your steering head bearings has a huge effect on your bike's handling. Your front end pivots on two bearings, one at the top of the headstock and one at the bottom. To get to those bearings, you need to remove the entire front end of the motorcycle. And to do that, you need to secure the bike and jack the front end up. But before you do any of that, I suggest taking some fork height measurements and leaving yourself some index marks on the clip-ons or handlebars, so everything goes back the way it was. Now remove the front wheel, fender, fork tubes, headlight, and other stuff attached to the triple clamp. Take notes and pictures as you take things apart, so you can reference them when it's time to reassemble. Modern bikes have caged ball bearings or roller bearings. That means they're contained in a metal housing, while older bikes tend to have loose ball bearings. The reason I point that out is because during this next step, the loose ball bearings will try and make a break for it. So if you've got a vintage bike, put a rag under the headstock to catch any bearings that fall out. First, unscrew the top triple clamp nut and remove it. Then pop the upper triple clamp off, and then pull the lower triple clamp out of the bottom of the headstock. The upper bearing is a loose fit in the frame, and you can just pluck it out. And oh crap, loose ball bearings. I was not expecting that on a bike this young. So I'm gonna use a magnet on a stick to try and fish out as many of the ball bearings as I can. And like I pointed out before, I'll put a rag under the headstock to try and catch those bearings as they fall out. Okay, so triple clamp removed, take a rag and some solvent and go ahead and clean all the old grease from the upper and lower bearing races. Now, you may find that yours has dried out grease or it might not have any grease at all if it's old enough. In this case, this bike's got some grease, but it's definitely due for a lube. Now that the races in the frame are clean, it's time to take care of the ball bearings and the rest of the parts. Use solvent and some rags, an old toothbrush, whatever you have, to clean all of the old grease off the parts. With all the parts nice and clean, we want to inspect them for rust or corrosion. Ball bearings shouldn't have any pitting or flat spots on them, and the same goes for the bearing races. This is the upper bearing race, which looks really clean now that we've got all the old grease off of it. But if you look closely, there's actually dents around the perimeter of this race, and that's from the ball bearings hammering into the race. That'll happen with a lot of time and mileage. Unfortunately, it means these bearings should probably be replaced. We're gonna cover that in another video, but for now, we're gonna carry on with the procedure. The whole purpose of this video is to show you how to grease your head bearings. Normally, they would be caged ball bearings, in which case there's a very particular procedure for how to do that. You would take a glob of grease and put it in your palm, and I'm gonna use this race as an example of a caged ball bearing, and you would drive it into the grease so that it became fully packed. Now, unfortunately, we have loose ball bearings, which are a total pain in the ass. So what I'm gonna do is run grease along the outer race here, and then carefully stick the individual ball bearings into it, and hope they stay put while I slide the triple clamp into place. Wish me luck, because this is gonna suck. Okay, now the bearings are glued in place with grease, we are going to very carefully slide the triple clamp back up through the headstock, then slide the greased inner race over the headstock and quickly spin on the adjuster cap to hold everything together. Whew, all right, we got the adjustment collar on there, somehow got everything put back together without losing any bearings. Now, we're just gonna set the triple clamp back into place and spin on the top triple clamp nut. All right, triple clamp is back on the bike, but don't tighten anything down yet. Before you do, you need to align your triple clamp, and the best way to do that is to slide the forks back into place. With the triple clamp aligned and the lower pinch bolts snugged down, now all you have to do is set the tension on your steering head bearings. We've already covered that in another video, so if you want to check it out, click the link. Your bearings are clean, your bearings are lubricated, your bearing tension is set. Now all you gotta do is put your motorcycle back together. Make sure you reference the photos you took, the notes you took, and your shop manual so that everything gets torqued and put back together the way it's supposed to. Okay, like I said in the intro, definitely tedious and kind of a pain in the ass, but you know what? Your bike's gonna thank you. Before you ride your bike, however, make sure you pump up the front brake because we did remove the brake caliper. Other than that, you're all set. I hope you learned something, even if that thing you learned is that you never want to lubricate your own steering head bearings. If that's the case, I totally understand. As usual, please subscribe, leave your questions and comments, and we'll see you next time.